Tonight, court orders that leader of proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, remain in DSS custody, adjourns his trial till October the 21st. PDP governors insist on adoption of electronic transmission of results for the 2023 general elections, seek deployment of ICT in rural communities ahead of polls. Kaduna state government suspends resumption of all schools till further notice due to ongoing military operation in parts of the state. And Tunisia's president under fire as the country's main political parties accuse him of staging a coup after he sacked the prime minister and suspended parliament. Plus, business sports news from Abuja and later, international news from our studio in London.
On business news tonight, OPEC Secretary General says the worst is over for the global crude market following the devastating impact of COVID-19 on oil prices in 2020.
On sports news tonight, former African champion Olufunke Oshonaike becomes the first female in the world to be inducted into the exclusive club of seven-time Olympians known as the Club 7 in table tennis.
And from Abuja, the president departs the nation's capital for London to attend a global education summit and undergo medical checks.
The trial of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, resumed today in Abuja, but the federal government failed to produce him in court, contrary to an order by the Federal High Court. The prosecution counsel, Mohammed Abubakar, had cited logistics setback as a reason why he was absent. Counsel Nnamdi Kanu Ifeanyi Ejiofor also accused the Department of State Service of denying his lawyers and family members access to the Biafran leader.
As early as 6:30 a.m., men from most security agencies take over all roads leading to the Federal High Court, Abuja, barricading and manning different checkpoints. Accredited journalists and lawyers are subjected to checks at all the points before gaining entrance into the court. Outside the courtroom, a mild drama ensues between lawyers and the men from the DSS over non-admittance into the courtroom.
I saw what they're doing to Nigerians outside. Yes. The club cannot contain everybody. And if you don't contain everybody, that means you give me a list of people that will enter. Everybody cannot enter now. If you enter now, everybody enter, what will you see? I can't be standing and begging to enter my courtroom.
Eventually, some members of the legal team were given access into the courtroom. The presiding judge, Justice Binta Nyako, arrived 2 hours later, but Mr. Nnamdi Kanu was not in the court. According to the prosecution, Mohammed Abubakar, logistics was the reason for his absence, to the displeasure of the presiding judge. Counsel to Nnamdi Kanu also made efforts to move an application for the transfer of his client from the DSS custody to a correctional facility, but was unsuccessful. Justice Nyako insists that the case will not go on except Nnamdi Kanu was physically present in court.
We are here on political trial. Nnamdi Kanu is here on a political trial. And the fullness of time will be out. We are sure, and I can confirm to you that he will be released. He must regain his freedom sooner than expected. Now, we are making a discussion. We are discussing with the court and also with the council on the other side. And the court director, we should notify the CJ for a fair to be obtained so they can hear this matter during vacation. Today, we are talking about amendment of charges, amendment of charge. That we have a case of murder, terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and all what else. There's no charge before this court amended today, as I can confirm it to you. Federal government has not amended any charge today. No amendment charge today before the court. We are here on pre-existing matter, charge before the court.
I thought I was going to see Nnamdi Kanu certify that it's alive and breathing. But as it is now, we wait. It's my son. And whatever situation, he is my son. And I don't know what they did to him in Kenya, and what I do to him now here in Nigeria, and how the court set a date, and the government could not bring the person they are accusing, the person they kidnapped from Kenya, they didn't bring him for trial. I think it's disappointing anyway.
Outside the court premises, supporters of Nnamdi Kanu chant solidarity songs. The IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu, would remain in the custody of the DSS until the next adjourned date of October the 21st, 2021.
Meanwhile, the trial of Yoruba Nation agitator Sunday Ade, more popularly known as Sunday Igboho, is being held behind closed doors in Benin Republic. Igboho supporters were set to have been in court as early as 7:30 a.m. today, anticipating the arrival of the Yoruba youth leader who has been in detention since Thursday. But there was no sign of him as other detainees were brought to court for hearing. Meanwhile, the pan-Yoruba movement, Ilana Omo Odua, is insisting that Igboho is not under any immigration-related probe in Benin Republic, although he is expected to appear in court to face the possible extradition charges by the Nigerian government. The group in a statement said that after a week in detention, security operatives in Benin Republic removed his leg chain and handcuffs and also granted access to his wife to see him 3 times daily. Igboho and his wife were arrested at an airport in Cotonou last week and detained at the request of the Nigerian government. Well, staying with legal matters, the Akwa Ibom State High Court has commenced trial of a 20-year-old Uduak Abasi Frank and his father, Frank Akpan, for the murder of a graduate job seeker in Yobong Umoren. The suspects are standing trial before Justice Bennett Ila Umor on a 3-count charge bordering on rape and murder. The trial comes about 3 months after the offense was allegedly committed. He's accused of killing Miss Nyobong Umoren at Nung Ikonobio village in Irwan local government area of the state. He's also charged for rape under Section 367 of the Criminal Code, Cap 38, Volume 2, Laws of Akwa Ibom State, 2000. And here in Lagos, the State Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja has admitted 2 videotapes as evidence against Nollywood actor Olaniwaju James Omiyinka, popularly known as Baba Ijesha. The evidence, which was tendered by the prosecution through comedian Adekola Adekanye, also known as Princess, allegedly contained clips of the defendant molesting the victim. Before the video was played in open court, journalists, lawyers and others not involved in the case were sent out because of the need to protect issues involving the minor. On the 24th of June, Baba Ijesha was arraigned before the court by the Lagos State government on a 6-count charge of attempted sexual assault of a minor and indecent treatment of a child. He, however, pleaded not guilty to the charge. At the resumed hearing of the matter today, the prosecution led by the Lagos State Director of Public Prosecution, Mrs. Olayinka Adeyemi, presented its first witness, Princess, who narrated how the defendant allegedly committed the offences. The witness told the court that she met Baba Ijesha in 2008 at an event, and the 2 of them decided to start making comedy skits together. She also testified that the defendant wooed her in the process of their work relationship, but she rejected his proposal. Now, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, has unveiled a court record system as part of efforts to ensure speedy administration of justice in the country. Speaking in Abuja at the unveiling ceremony, the Attorney General of the Federation says the web-based court recording system converts speech to text with 90% accuracy, and it's specifically tailored for the Nigerian court system. Mr. Malami explains that there is a need to ensure speedy administration of justice as the continuous use of longhand by judges in recording court proceedings is contributing to the delay in justice administration. And to other stories now, governors of the People's Democratic Party have demanded that the National Assembly adopts electronic transmission of results in the proposed Electoral Act Amendment Bill and equally request INEC and all communication bodies to deploy technology and ICT in rural communities before the 2023 general elections. The forum also kicked against attempts to adopt direct primaries for political parties, insisting that this will pave way for massive rigging, citing the 2019 APC primaries as a case study. The governors also condemned the coercion of PDP governors into APC, while also suggesting to the federal government better ways of handling the nation's insecurity, economy, among other things. Chairman of the PDP Governors Forum voiced their position while reading out a 10-point communique at the end of the forum's meeting in Bauchi. All 13 governors were in attendance, including the Zamfara State Deputy Governor.
On the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the governors identified with the need for a free, fair and credible elections in the country and called on the National Assembly to entrench electronic transmission of results of elections in the nation's electoral jurisprudence. The meeting requested Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), the only body empowered by the Constitution to conduct elections, to deploy appropriate technologies necessary to ensure that the votes of every Nigerian is counted are meant to count. The meeting further called on the National Communications Commission, especially the Universal Service Provision Fund, Nigerian Communications Supply Limited, NACOMSAT, telephone companies, telcos, and all the relevant stakeholders to ensure that universal access and service of information and communication technologies are provided, especially in rural and underserved areas of the country before the 2023 general election. The meeting condemned the attempt to voice on all political parties one method of conducting primaries, that is by direct method only, through the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The governors noted that the method is prone to massive rigging, as evidenced by a situation where President Buhari scored 15 million votes in the 2018 direct primaries, only to score 15 million votes for the entire country in the 2019 general election. The governors advised that political parties should be allowed to decide whether to use direct or indirect methods of conducting primaries as part of internal democracy in political parties. The governors reiterated once again the need for the NNPC and other revenue-generating agencies of government to strictly abide by the Constitution by remitting all their revenues less cost of production to the national account as provided for by Section 162 of the Constitution.
Let's now take you to Ogun State, where the Independent Electoral Commission has presented certificates of return to the 20 newly elected local government chairmen and their deputies under the All Progressives Congress. The chairman of the electoral body, Babatunde Osibodu, urged them to see their election as a call to serve and ensure development at the grassroots level. All 20 local government chairmen and their deputies who contested under the All Progressives Congress emerged victorious after Saturday's council poll in the state.
Having secured the confidence and acceptability of the electorate at the poll, the chairmen are presented with the certificate of return by the chairman of the Ogun State Independent Electoral Commission, authenticating their victory. With this development, family members, political leaders, members of the state and national assemblies, leaders of thought as well as well-wishers are here to witness the swearing-in of these set of grassroots leaders.
Protect and defend the history of Nigeria. So help me God.
After the oath of office and that of allegiance, the elected chairmen sign the dotted lines as the governor admonishes them to provide the much-needed leadership to engender real development at their respective local councils.
Local government is not just a tier of government stated in the country's 1999 constitution. It is the closest to the people, and so much is expected from you. Therefore, your ascension to the office must bring a new wave of development to our people at the grassroots level. In doing this, you must be inclusive, you must be transparent, you must be accountable, you must be fair, you must be just, you must be equitable, you must obey the rule of law. and you must provide good governance and the judicial.
Some of the newly sworn-in chairmen promise to do whatever it takes to meet the expectations of the people.
We'll improve the level of governance in the local government. We'll make sure there is security, adequate security. We'll improve on what is on ground already. We'll complement whatever it is the state government has been doing. We'll make sure that the return to agriculture challenge of the state government is worked upon in a manner that will reduce unemployment seriously in our local government.
The task before these representatives of the people at the grassroots is to stimulate real development and restoration of the much-needed confidence and trust, especially at a time when people seem to be losing confidence in this tier of government.
In part two, after the break, Kaduna State government suspends resumption of all schools till further notice due to ongoing military operation in parts of the state. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Court orders that leader of proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, remain in DSS custody, adjourns his trial till October the 21st. PDP governors insist on adoption of electronic transmission of results for the 2023 general elections, seek deployment of ICT in rural communities ahead of polls. Kaduna State government suspends resumption of all schools till further notice due to ongoing military operation in parts of the state. And Tunisia's president under fire as the country's main political parties accuse him of staging a coup after he sacked the prime minister and suspended parliament. River State Governor Nyesom Wike has advised officers and men of the Nigerian Army against meddling in politics, saying the personnel must strive to maintain the high integrity and respect the military is known for. Governor Wike gave the advice when the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, led a delegation of senior army officers on a courtesy visit in Government House, Port Harcourt, to inform the governor of his operational visits to the 6th Division in Port Harcourt and plan to declare open the Nigerian Army's Combat Support Training Week in the city tomorrow. He explains that while his administration is determined to support the army in fighting crime in River State, the officers and men must distinguish between their core mandate of protecting lives and property and having a soft spot for political actors.
I must tell you that I'm really satisfied. And look at the efforts within the short time of coming, seeing the results we're achieving. So do not depart from that. This is the general officer commanding. He gave me reported, but I've never seen him. He's doing his work. Ask him whether he has seen me. He did his work. But good people play politics in everything, which is not good. I'm here to make sure to protect life and protect body. Why can't I go? No. It is for me to give support to the security agencies to make sure that protection of life and property, to protect our national assets. That's what it's supposed to be. But the moment we defeat, then there's a problem.
I want most sincerely appreciate you, sir, for all the support. And as usual, only to ask you, Your Excellency, not to relent, but indeed to even improve on them. And I know you have the capability, the will to also do that. So I want, on behalf of the General Officer Command and all of us, request you to continue in that drive. Among other things, I know he has informed me of the promise to provide him with even additional gumboots 5 you mentioned. And to use his words, when His Excellency say he will, he will.
Staying with security, the traditional ruler of Jaba Chiefdom in Jaba local government area of Kaduna State, Mr. Giet Maude, has been abducted by gunmen suspected to be kidnappers. A brother to the first-class traditional ruler who confirmed the incident to Channels Television said the monarch, who is over 80 years old, was kidnapped from his farm located at Gitata community in Nasarawa State. The community is on the boundary between Jaba local government area of Kaduna State and Nasarawa State, but the Kaduna State government and the police authorities are yet to comment on the incident. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State government has suspended resumption of all private and public schools across the state to further notice and, by extension, the closure of all schools in the state. This, according to Governor Nasir El-Rufai, is to protect vulnerable children from being attacked by fleeing bandits due to ongoing military operations in the state. He was speaking during a meeting with stakeholders to address the security challenges there.
It's been one episode of abduction or another in Kaduna State, forcing farmers to abandon their farms for fear of attacks by bandits.
When we came into office, 3 sources of insecurity concerned us. The first was cattle rustling, which was prevalent in the northern part of the state, northern and central parts of the state. The second was the presence of urban gangs, these young people, Sarasuka and Enshara, whatever you call them. They will just take drugs and attack anyone and everyone on sight. And the third, of course, was ethnic and religious intolerance, particularly in southern Kaduna.
It's in addressing these challenges that the state government calls this meeting with stakeholders to intimate them of its efforts and seek support.
We have been trying to collaborate with other states so that we attack this problem at once, because doing it piecemeal doesn't work.
Another effort is military bombardment on bandits' hideout. The government is, however, warning residents to be on the watch against bandits finding their way to town.
We closed down all our schools in Kaduna is in anticipation of this operation, because we don't want, in the process of the bandits escaping, to attack any school that they see as soft targets.
Some thought leaders are of the opinion that the case in Kaduna is blown beyond proportion, while others want governments to license the use of firearms.
What we are advocating is that people be allowed to protect themselves and, if necessary, acquire the needed weapons to do so. I understand some of the challenges that the government may feel are reasons to discourage that, one of which is the fact that there will be proliferation of weapons in the society. But that is not necessarily correct, because as it is now, we already have proliferations of weapons to saturation in the hands of criminals. So the only people that are not allowed to possess these weapons are the law-abiding citizens.
We can say that it's even worse in places like Zamfara, in Borno and the rest. But in Kaduna's case, you know, it's a special case, because there's a lot of politics in it, there's a lot of religion and ethnicity that is going on. So when Zamfara 55 people are being killed, nobody talks, but when one person is being killed in Kaduna, everybody makes a lot of noise.
In spite of persistent attacks, Governor Nasir El-Rufai expresses optimism that the ongoing military operations will end the reign of terror in Kaduna State.
And 4 persons have reportedly been killed by suspected herdsmen in Nimbo community, Uzunwani local government area of Enugu State. Trouble reportedly started when the herders were stopped from grazing their cattle in the farm settlement in the area on Sunday, a situation that led to the farmers chasing the herders and their cattle from further destruction of their crops. However, it was learned the herders later regrouped in a calculated revenge mission and attacked the community, killing no less than 4 persons in the early hours of Monday. 7 persons were reportedly severely injured and no fewer than 10 persons reported missing as at the time of filing this report. When the news at 10 returns, OPEC Secretary General says the worst is over for the global crude oil market following the devastating impact of COVID-19 on oil prices in 2020. That's on Business News. Do join us again. Now we're off to Abuja for more stories. Here's Markwe Ogun Yusuf. Good to see you, Markwe.
Hello, Millicent. It's good to see you as well. Well, let's start with this one. President Muhammadu Buhari has left Nigeria for the United Kingdom to participate in the Global Education Summit on Financing Global Partnerships for Education, GPE 2021 to 2025. The summit, hosted by the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, and the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, will bring together heads of state and government, as well as stakeholders and youth leaders, and provide a platform for partners to chart a way forward towards transforming education systems in partner countries. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President, Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, deliberations at the summit will focus on transforming education in 5 years, among other highlights. Meanwhile, after the summit, the president is expected to spend a few days for an earlier scheduled medical checkup, and he is to return to Nigeria by the second week of August. Before he departed for the United Kingdom, President Buhari signed a supplementary budget of 982.7 billion naira for 2021 to address urgent security and COVID-19 needs of the nation. The president reportedly signed the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2021 in his office at the State House in the presence of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and other cabinet members. Of the 982 billion naira, 123.3 million is for recurrent expenditure, while the sum of 859.3 billion is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December this year. And on to labor matters. The National Executive Council of Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria has issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government and its agencies as a notice of its resolve on the continued underpayment of members who are clinical lecturers in universities across Nigeria. The president of the association, Professor Ken Ozoilo, explains that an emergency meeting of the association frowned at the letter from the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission to the Accountant General of the Federation, directing the removal of doctors who are lecturers from the CONMES salary scale on the IP's platform for the payment of their salaries in the universities. Meanwhile, the Southeast Caucus of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors have threatened to embark on an indefinite strike if governments in the region fail to pay their colleagues in the state, tertiary institutions, their salaries on or before the 31st of July this year. According to the union's regional president, Dr. Ekeoma Wosu, resident doctors in Abia State University teaching hospitals are owed 20-month salary, Imo State Teaching Hospital 8 months, and Anambra State Teaching Hospital 8 months as well. The union also wants accreditation of medical programs in these institutions to take place to kickstart specialized training and retraining of the doctors. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the NCDC, says misinformation and conspiracy theories around COVID-19 are drivers of new infections in the country, as such information on the social media shape many people's behavioral patterns regarding the non-pharmaceutical interventions. On the sideline of a pre-conference meeting of applied and field epidemiologists in Abuja, the Director of Prevention and Knowledge Management Programs at the NCDC, Mrs. Chinwe Ochu, notes that the massive non-compliance with the COVID-19 safety protocols is largely driven by the misinformation on the social media. She also contends that despite the disruptions caused by the pandemic, The emergence of COVID-19 has provided Nigeria with an unusual opportunity to build back strongly the country's response system to disease outbreaks.
The COVID-19 outbreak has been very disruptive, but it has also provided us a lot of opportunities to build back stronger on some of the systems we already had in place even before the COVID came. For instance, we've always used an incident management system in responding to disease outbreaks. This time around with COVID, we had a lot of stakeholder engagement, a lot of partners, multi-sectoral kind of response coming together, and we were able to test this system. Now we had the laboratory aspect of our response strengthened as a result of this outbreak. We are strengthening all the things that we have been doing because actually the strategy has not changed. It's still these non-pharmaceutical interventions, public health and social measures that can keep any nation safe. And we keep providing information, generating evidence and providing information on how best to keep this virus, away from us and to make sure that we are safe from it. Misinformation is a clear challenge to the outbreak, and all these conspiracy theories and all forms of misinformation that you see all over the place that is impacting on how people respond to them. So all the behavioral factors that you see that is driving the response, the outbreak currently, like people not wearing their face masks, people not avoiding large gatherings, is as a result of misinformation.
And that's all from Abuja. And now hand you over to Melinda Kilame, who's standing by with business news.
And thanks, Malpe. Welcome to Business News. The worst is over for the global crude oil market, and that's according to the Secretary General of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, Mr. Mohamed Barkindo. He made the declaration after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House in Abuja. Speaking on efforts made by OPEC to bounce back from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the global price of crude oil, Mr. Barkindo mentioned that the cartel is on the path to recovery.
We have gone through the worst year in the history of OPEC. In the 6th-year history of this organization, we had not witnessed such an oil cycle that we witnessed last year. Therefore, it's incumbent on me to come at this time to brief him on all the efforts that we have made, what we have achieved so far, and our projections going forward. And I will repeat what I had said severally, that the worst is over for the oil market. We are now on the path of recovery, and thank God you can see the effects in all the benchmarks around the world.
The Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has begun another round of its two-day rate decision meeting, which is the 4th this year. The gathering will offer members of the committee an opportunity to assess the developments in the domestic and external macroeconomic and financial markets. Although inflation is still well ahead of the CBN's medium target of 6.0 to 9.0%, analysts do not expect the committee to make a U-turn from its short-term objective of supporting economic recovery. The outcome of the meeting is expected to be announced tomorrow afternoon. That's Tuesday. To some company news now, EcoBank Transnational Incorporated has released its financial statement for the 2nd quarter of this year. According to the earnings results sent to the Nigerian Exchange Company, the Pan-African financial institution recorded a 13% growth in its gross earnings against the previous quarter, which climbed to 442.89 billion naira. At the same time, the parent company of EcoBank posted 33% increase in pre-tax profit, about 29% increase in after-tax profit, while its earnings per share surged by 31.5% within the period. More company news now, but this time we look at the pharmaceutical sector. May and Baker, which also recorded an impressive 35.7% jump in its revenue in the second quarter of this year. According to its financial statement sent to the exchange, the company's net asset, pre-tax and after-tax profit for the period also came in the green, up by 15.3%. 26.5% and 27% accordingly compared to the performance recorded in the first quarter. It's a strong opening for the final trading week of July at the domestic stock market as the month-to-date gain climbs further to 2.5%. John Mekwa has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the bull is still in charge on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange Group as trading ended in the positive territory today, same way it ended last week. The all-share index was up 0.47% with a 13% increase in deals, leaving deals at 4,676 and a 7% increase in volume of trade, leaving it at 246.5 million. Top trades by value have three Tier 1 lenders, GT Co, Zenith and Access Bank. They accounted for over 800 million naira of today's trade in over 800 deals. Now, for the sectors, the banking counter closed positive. The index was up 0.26%. Consumer goods also did well, 0.28%. But the star for today was the oil and gas. It was up 2.24%, driven by investors' interest in O&O. Since the oil giants reached an agreement with the Securities and Exchange Commission last week, the shares have been investors' toast. Today, the price was up by about 10%, closing at 4.36 naira. Now, 28 tickers gained while 16 declined, leaving a positive market breadth and a 94 billion naira added to the total value of listed equities. A profitable way to start the week. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm John Mekwa.
Many thanks, Ini. It's a green day outside our shores as well as stock markets across the United States closed the day with positive sentiment, with the S&P at another record high ahead of earning results from big tech companies. Here are some of the global market snapshots for today. As business news is back to you, Millicent.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Melinda. Still ahead on the news at 10, Tunisia's president under fire as the country's main political parties accuse him of staging a coup after he sacked the prime minister and suspended parliament, plus other international news from our studio in London. Please stay with us. A news just in has it that 4 additional abducted students of Bethel Baptist Secondary School in Kaduna State have regained their freedom. A top official of the school told Channels Television that the 4 students escaped from the forest last night, where they were held captive by their abductors. The latest development therefore brings the total number of rescued students to 38 out of the 121 that were abducted by bandits July 5th. And main political parties in Tunisia are accusing President of Tunisia of staging a coup after he sacked the country's prime minister and suspended the parliament. The president has defended the decision, saying he acted in accordance with the constitution. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Clashes have continued for a second day in Tunisia following the removal of the Prime Minister and suspension of Parliament. Opposing sides engaged in scuffles around the Parliament building and threw stones at each other while police attempted to separate them. It's after the president, Kais Saied, removed Prime Minister Hichem Mechichi, who has the backing of the largest party in Parliament, Ennahda. Speaker and leader of Ennahda, Rached Ghannouchi, was last night barred from entering the building. Anger over a massive spike in COVID cases has added to general unrest over the nation's economic and social issues. Opponents of President Kais Saied accuse him of staging a coup. The number of Afghan civilians killed or injured in escalating violence has risen to record levels in the first half of this year. That's according to the United Nations. A new report says Afghanistan has recorded more than 1,600 civilian deaths so far in 2021. That's a 47% rise compared to this time last year. Afghan government forces have been fighting Taliban insurgents who now control large parts of the country.
We did not go to Afghanistan to nation build.
It's after Joe Biden announced the withdrawal of US forces from the country by September this year. The French Parliament has adopted a controversial new law introducing COVID passports for entry to bars, restaurants and for long-distance trains and flights.
Pour l'adoption 195.
The expanded law, which will take effect next month, means people will have to show proof of full vaccination or a recent negative COVID test. Over the weekend, more than 160,000 people demonstrated against it, including some violent clashes with police. A South Korean TV station has apologized for stereotyping countries in its Olympics opening ceremony coverage. MBC has since apologized for offending viewers after broadcasting a picture of pizza as the Italian team walked out, as well as Chernobyl for Ukraine and a photo of protests for the Haiti contingent. The channel said it wanted to make it easier for viewers to understand the entering countries quickly, but said it was an inexcusable mistake. A landmark fraud trial of 10 people, including a cardinal, will begin in the Vatican on Tuesday, with officials hoping it will show that no one is above the law. Cardinal Angelo Becciu, formerly a senior official in the Vatican, and 9 others are accused of using charity funds in a London property venture. Pope Francis, who lifted Becciu's immunity so he could be indicted, fired him from his last Vatican post in 2020 for alleged nepotism and embezzlement. Becciu has always maintained his innocence. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
And the main news again, 4 additional abducted students of Bethel Baptist Secondary School in Kaduna State today regained their freedom after they were held captive by their abductors. Also today, the Federal High Court ordered that the leader of proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, should remain in DSS custody. The court also adjourned his trial till October 21. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night. Stay safe.